the fear.
Right. Yeah, man. Oh, oh no.
No.
Um,
Yeah.
That's like Vegas quality.
Like your
there.
whole house. Like, I'm covering brain up.
Oh, it was.
No, I've had that from Miss. I'm like,
Now, that's the kind of coffee cup I really get in.
So much.
Want to call to order the City Commission meeting of February 13th, 2024. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Brown?
Here.
Dr. Estromp?
Here?
Mrs. Houston?
Here.
Mrs. Tackett? Mr. Rue?
We have a statement from Commissioner Tackett. Clerk, would you please read that into the record, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner Tackett writes, I apologize I am not able to attend this evening as I am on my way back from Washington, D.C., where I spent the last 3 days on behalf of the Epilepsy Foundation advocating for the 65 million people who are affected by this disorder, including my recently deceased daughter who suffered for 17 years. I want to thank the foundation for the opportunity, and I will be back at the next commission meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you now please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? God above, guide us tonight as we make decisions, good decisions for the people of Springfield. Amen. Pledge allegiance, flag. One nation. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Commissioners, any comment? If not, clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Here. Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estromp?
Yes. Before we get to the business tonight, please note there are no emergency ordinances presented. That's because there's just 3 of us. And the charter requires for any emergency ordinance to be approved, it requires a vote of 4 commissioners. So thus, there are no emergency ordinances on the agenda for this evening. At this point, we'll proceed with first readings by title only.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for sale and purchase of real estate for the purchase of certain real property located at 2010 West Jackson Road from the estate of Charles W. Garrity for an amount not to exceed $108,000, and authorizing the city manager, law director, and director of finance to perform all acts and execute all documents they consider necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under said agreement and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements. Authorizing the city manager to accept a donation from the Clark County prosecutor, Dan Driscoll, in the amount of $13,164 to be used for the purchase of I2 software to be utilized by the Springfield Police Division. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an amendment number 1 to the agreement with OMAC Hauling Incorporated for abatement and nuisance condition services as needed by the city to increase the agreement in an amount not to exceed $40,000 for a total amount not to exceed $90,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 2 to the subrecipient funding agreement with Habitat for Humanity of Greater Dayton to extend the period of performance to March 31, 2024, and confirming and approving related services provided from January 1, 2024 to the passage of this ordinance. Authorizing the purchase of 55 sets of V-Force turnout gear from Phoenix Safety Outfitters for for an amount not to exceed $214,775 through Sourcewell pursuant to the Sourcewell Contract Purchasing Cooperative Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 9.48 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Thank you. We do not vote this evening on first reading ordinances. These ordinances will be considered for votes at our next commission meeting. Mr. Manager, do you have any comments on anything on first read?
Yes, Commissioners, I'll just give you a brief highlight of really all 5 items. The first one is the agreement of sale and purchase for real estate out at the airport. This is in the runway protection area, and so this is something that we work with FAA on to remove properties that are within that runway protection area that may cause issues as it relates to the landing and takeoff of planes at the airport. This was something we've been working on for some time. Unfortunately, the owner passed away before the negotiations were finalized and complete, so we are working with the estate on this. And as is with previous properties purchased at the airport in the runway protection area, we can seek reimbursement from FAA for the cost of the purchase. The next one is just another great example of partnership. So the Clark County Prosecutor, Dan Driscoll, in providing funding to help us purchase this I2 software. This is a tool that will allow us to make presentations for court trials. We can tie in the events, social media posts, links to be presented to the jury in court in these cases. And this will be a great tool for our crime analysts that we have added onto our staff. And so again, just a great partnership by the County Prosecutor's Office and the City of Springfield Police Division. The next one, authorizing the amendment to OMAC hauling. So this is related to our junk and trash contracts that we have every year. The remainder of their contract runs through September, so this provides enough money on their purchase order so that we can continue our junk and trash program in our neighborhoods. The next one is working on an amendment with a partner, Habitat for Humanity of Greater Dayton, to extend their performance period to March 31st of this year. As you know, we started working with Neighborhood Housing Partnership as well as Habitat for our health and safety repair program, which was previously referred to as our emergency repair program. So trying to get help to those in need in our community to make necessary repairs to their house. And then finally, on the fire side, the purchase of 55 sets of turnout gear from Phoenix Safety Outfitters. One, I'll say Phoenix Safety is a great local company. They just expanded actually on Luffle Lane, bought a new facility, but this allows us, this is a multi-year program to ultimately have 2 sets of gear for each of our staff members with the Fire Rescue Division. So currently there's a 10-year life expectancy from the date of manufacture of turnout gear. We're averaging 4 to 4.5 years because of the amount of runs and calls that we go on that expose them to the various carcinogens. And then we have looked into it. It actually costs more to repair the turnout gear than to just replace it. And then the new gear that's coming out also has material built into the fabric that helps with cancer prevention and that exposure to those carcinogens. So those are the first readings.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Do members of the commission have any questions or comments on first reading? Any members of the audience wish to speak to items on first reading? The items that are listed under first reading ordinances on the agenda.
Hello. I have questions.
Would you please come to the microphone, give us your name and address, please?
Gary Armstrong, 109 East Ward Street. Since I had 2 firefighters in my family, I know about that, and I Googled it because I didn't know what a V-Force is. It says that protective equipment should be replaced every 10 years. I couldn't hear you that well because I said last meeting, and he didn't speak any louder, that I have a problem when you don't speak into the mic with a little bit of voice. Like I'm speaking, I can hear my voice. I couldn't hear yours.
Yes, sir. So the V-Force turnout gear, we are averaging 4 to 4.5 years life expectancy on our turnout gear because of the amount of runs, the call volume that we are going on from our fire and rescue division.
So you're saying that's lowering the life expectancy because they're in use more.
Yes, that is correct.
Well, there's logic to that. And if it's logical, I can get it. And when I hear it illogical, that's when I think of the hotel deal, and that I get. But that's a lot of calls, though, to reduce the life expectancy from 10 years that I saw on Google, if that's true. And I don't know. But when I don't know something, I go to another source. And it said those things are that. And I wouldn't send firefighters out and stuff that isn't going to keep them safe. So the next item, if I'm answering all of them, on the property value, let me ask you, 108,000, is that for 10 square foot, 2,000 square foot, 50,000 square foot? And is that exorbitantly high for a piece of property? Or are you just paying it because people think, well, they want to extend the runway and that the city will pay an overprice? And did you deal from there?
Typically, if federal dollars are involved, and Tom Franzen can answer more from the airport side of it, we are required to have appraisals completed.
That's exactly right, Mr. Manager. There's an appraisal and a review appraisal process that set that price at $108,000. It's about an acre and a half. It's actually a very fair price, I think.
Acre and a half?
Yes.
Is it buildable? Can they build structures on it?
No. It actually had a house.
That's a lot of money for something you can't do. I did sell real
There is
estate
a
for
current
few years.
house, understand, sir, there is a current house on the property. We are buying a property that has a house or a structure.
Can
We
they-
are buying it to remove it because of the runway protection
Could
area.
another citizen buy that house and live in it?
No,
Why not?
because it is within the runway protection area as set forth by FAA.
All right. These are questions that I think new commissioners should be asking that I think sometimes they don't ask because we elect people that don't have knowledge in construction, real estate values, and so forth. And I think it's got us in trouble. 'cause
Sir,
I
do
watch
you
this.
have additional questions?
Yeah. What's the
Please
next?
proceed with your question.
Well, what was the next item?
I don't know, sir. What are you interested in having next?
Well, we talked about the property. We talked about the fire suits. You tell me. I'm just a citizen
Well,
asking
do you
a question.
understand the gift from Prosecutor Dan Driscoll?
Oh, that one. That I did have a question.
Okay.
Why is he the prosecutor, and why do you need an acceptance if they're donating it? That didn't make sense.
We have to take action to accept any donation from any citizen.
That is over $10,000 in value. That is in the ordinances. Clark County Prosecutor Dan Driscoll is an elected official that you would have.
I'm not following this now, and I have no knowledge of this. Why is the prosecutor donating it? Is that within his capabilities to choose what he wants to donate?
Yes,
It
sir.
is his budget, and he can choose to do what he wants with his budget.
All right. I don't think there was any other item you mentioned that I have a question on.
Thank you very much. We'll continue. Clerk, proceed with second readings.
Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 3.88 acres at the southwest corner of East Home Road and North Belmont Avenue, Springfield, Ohio, from CN1 Neighborhood Commercial District to RM12 Low Density Multifamily Residence District.
Is there a motion on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Mr. Manager, why don't you go through the process that brings us to this point for consideration of this item?
Yes, Commission, this is an amendment to the zoning map, so it is a rezoning of a property in the city of Springfield. This specific property is located on the southwest corner of Belmont and Home Road. The developer that has purchased that property is asking to rezone it from CN1 Neighborhood Commercial to RM12 Low Density Multifamily Residence District with a plan to construct 24 townhome style apartment units on that property.
So this will aid in providing more housing for the residents of the city.
Yes, this is a private developer that is looking to invest money in Springfield to bring more housing.
Any questions, comments from the commission? Any from the audience? Please come state your name and address, please.
109 East Ward. I've said this a couple times in the last year, is I've seen some of the goofiest decisions made, like Belmont or Bechtel Avenue, because people that were voting on it didn't look at what I look at when I build something. Is it feasible, and is it engineering-wise a good decision? Bechtel Avenue is a poor decision because you only have north and south exits, and it's the most dangerous thing I've seen, and the taxpayers are going to pay for revamping it in the next 2 to 20 years and do it the way it should have been approved. So you're adding that. I grew up in Home Orchards. I started a subdivision there. I know that area. You're adding a whole lot of density of people in that area, which impacts traffic. If you haven't looked at how feasible and what problems can arise or will arise from just okaying it, that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to make the town better by looking at all those factors. And if you don't do that, you're negligent. And how many units did you say that was in there? 24? Well, depending on if there's 2 people, there's 2 cars. If there's 4 people, there could be 8 cars there. You don't know. I had the apartment that was turned into a 4-unit across the street now has 12 cars when it had 1 for the last 15, 16 years.
Thank you for your comments,
Yes.
sir.
And they're true.
Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes, motion passes. Next
Amend-
item, please.
I'm sorry. Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 2.46 acres at 313 West High Street, Springfield, Ohio, from CN2 Neighborhood Commercial District, UPOD, to RM20 Medium Density Multifamily Residence District, UPOD.
Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second. Mr. Manager, again, can you update us on how this came to be before us tonight?
Well, how it became before us was, again, a private property owner purchased a property, and they are seeking a rezoning to redevelop this property into another use. And so it was zoned CN2 previously. It is being sought to be rezoned to RM20 for the purposes that the private property owner intends. And the process itself is, it goes before a notification process to property owners within a certain distance of the property, which is located close to downtown at 313 West High Street. It goes to our city planning board, which is a board that reviews all these zoning cases, as well as staff reports that are looked at by all of our different departments and divisions. And then it ultimately, the plan board makes a recommendation of approval or denial, which they have recommended approval on this case, and they then bring that to you, the city commission, for consideration. If you recall, at the last meeting, we had a public hearing, and then it was a first reading brought before this.
And as I recall, on this item as well as the previous item, there were no objections from anyone.
That is correct. And Commission at senior staff this past week, I asked if there were any other concerns or objections brought forward between the last meeting and that meeting last Thursday, and there had not been any.
Thank you. Comments, questions from commission? Comments, questions from the audience? Sir, please go to the microphone, identify yourself and your address, please.
Barry Armstrong, 915 East, or 109 East Ward. I did live at 915 East High Street at one time. Where's 315? What cross street?
This is 313 West High Street. This is bounded by, I believe, Wittenberg and Lowry. This is the old
Did you say
former
West High or East High?
West High.
Okay.
This is the former First Christian Church, if you remember the
I
First
know where it
Christian
is.
Church. That is the building that's subject to
What's the
rezoning.
size of the parcel?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
Well, that's-
2.46 acres, actually, I do. It's right in front of me.
Do what?
2.46 acres.
Okay. And how many units do they want?
They are not specifying units. Again, the zoning classification provides for opportunity for different uses within that zoning classification. They are looking at establishing a drug and mental health rehab facility.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else from commission? All right, would you please call the roll, clerk?
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes. Please proceed.
Amending ordinance number 9190, passed March 12, 1991, and commonly known as the codified ordinances of the city of Springfield, Ohio, by repealing and replacing certain sections of chapter 1301, building code relative to the adoption of the Ohio Building Code 2024 edition, the National Electrical Code 2023 edition, and the Ohio Mechanical Code 2024 edition.
Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve item 025-24. Mr. Manager, any comments on this?
Commission, primarily what this is doing is we adopt the basic building code that is adopted for the state of Ohio. Specifically, what we are doing here is bringing up to date the building code, as well as the National Electrical Code, as well as the Ohio Mechanical Code. Those are new additions that the state Board of Building Appeals have passed and approved, and so we are adding those in. I will say this is not residential. We still function off the Ohio Basic Building Code 2019 version for residential. I'm being told that they are evaluating and reviewing that right now and may bring changes later in 2024 or early 2025 to that code, in which we would then adopt the new residential building code from the state of Ohio.
So at this point, we're looking strictly at commercial.
Yes.
Okay. And this brings us into compliance with the state code.
Yes, we are a state authorized or state certified building department, and so this would bring us into compliance with the state regulation.
And I know there's been some confusion from time to time. The county would be under the same building codes, the same requirement.
Yes, any community that has a state certified building department would operate under the current basic building code as presented from the state of Ohio.
So Clark County
Yes, they
Has a
are a state
certified
certified. Yes,
will be adopting the same code.
yes.
Thank you. Any questions, other questions or comments from commission? From the audience? If not, clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes. Please proceed.
Amending ordinance number 9190, passed March 12, 1991, and commonly known as the codified ordinances of the city of Springfield, Ohio, by repealing and replacing section 1317.01 entitled Fuel Gas Code Adopted relative to the adoption of the 2021 International Fuel Gas Code.
Is there a motion to approve this item?
I'll move.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve this item. Mr. Manager?
Yes, Commissioner. Similar to the last item, it's just found in a different section of our code, but this adopts the new fuel gas code for our enforcement.
Brings us into compliance with state law then.
Yes.
Okay. Questions from the commission or comment? Questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Authorizing an expenditure in an amount not to exceed $1,300,000 relating to the memorandum of understanding by and among the city, Clark County Sheriff's Office, and Mental Health Recovery Board of Clark, Greene, and Madison counties in connection with the Comprehensive Opioid Stimulant and Substance Abuse Site-Based Program Grant and confirming and approving related expenditures incurred from October 1, 2022 to the passage of this ordinance.
Is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve item 027-24. Mr. Manning.
Yes, Commission. So this is a grant program that we partnered with the Mental Health and Recovery Board, as well as the Clark County Sheriff's Office to apply for these funds, $1.3 million to come into our community to help with the comprehensive opioid stimulants and substance abuse programs that mental health and the Sheriff's Office and so forth are operating and running. So we are the recipient of the grant, and then mental health is the ultimate subrecipient of these funds. This authorizes us to now expend those funds, and so this allows us to actually send payment for work done by Mental Health and Recovery Board.
Questions or comments from the commission?
Just wanted to comment that I'm really excited to see several pieces on the agenda tonight that directly impact our residents. So that's really exciting.
Anything else from the commission? I'm just pleased to see all these various organizations, including the city, coming together to submit this grant, and very pleased that we were awarded the grant. Clearly, Ohio and Clark County have been hit very hard by the opioid crisis, and whatever we can do to help our citizenry deal with this issue will be a good investment. Any comments other from the commission? If not, from the audience? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes. We have one new item on the agenda. If you
Yes,
would
sir.
proceed.
Appointing Tracy Yates to the Civil Service Commission.
Is there a motion to approve the appointment of Tracy Yates to the Civil Service Commission?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to appoint Tracy Yates to the Civil Service Commission. Do any of the commissioners wish to make a comment or question? Hearing none, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address this motion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes. This concludes all our agenda items, which brings us to committee reports. Mr. Manager, anything that you wish to report to us?
Commissioners, probably the biggest thing from the Immigration Accountability Response Team, there was an article that ran from Congressman Turner in his office, a press release. So Mayor Rob Rue, myself, Jason Vai from my office have been working with Congressman Turner's office, have probably met with him 3 different times now to talk to them about the issues and the challenges facing our community as it relates to a large increase in the number of immigrants to Springfield, asking for them to help set up meetings with some of our federal government partners so that we can talk to them about those issues and challenges to see what can be assisted with, how can they help. And so in that article it talked about in April we've been able to work out that we're able to go out and meet with the Department of Homeland Security and Congressman Turner's office and hopefully some other agencies to talk about again just the challenges that we're facing on top of other communities facing throughout the country.
Commission members have any questions or comments? Do you have any committee reports, colleagues, to present?
I do not.
I have 2, and it's good news. At the end of 2023, this represents the first year that the city of Springfield has operated the general aviation or fixed base operation at the Springfield Airport. In the past, we've contracted this out, and we received a lot of complaints about service or lack of in some cases, and we were paying money for it. Well, I'm pleased to announce that at a meeting of the Airport Advisory Committee, which I sat on the other night, the members of the general aviation community reported great satisfaction with the operation of the airport by the city. And it was reported that we made in our first full year of operation a profit of $120,000 that will be reinvested back into the airport for airport improvement. So I want to congratulate Seth Timmerman, Tom Franson, Seth's team out at the airport for doing a great job of getting that turned around and really getting the job done out there. Well done, Tom. If you would pass that along to Seth, I would appreciate it. I also want to point out there may be an opportunity for us because all our hangar space is in use, and there is now a waiting list of 26 people wanting to get into hangars at the airport. So we probably need to take a look at that in terms of maybe some future expenditures. I understand hangars are in a short supply all across Southwest Ohio and frankly across Ohio and the nation. So that would be real good news. The last thing I want to report comes from the Criminal Justice Council, which I serve on behalf of the city. It's the Clark County Criminal Justice Council. And some of you will recall that in 2022, we had a significant increase of retail theft in our community. Well, I'm pleased to report to you that there has been a significant decrease in retail theft in 2023. In the case of one retailer on Bechtel, it was a 10-fold reduction in retail theft. And I want to compliment the merchants who work with us, and they did very closely. I want to compliment Sergeant Harris of the Springfield Police Division, who headed up a team that worked with the merchants, along with other law enforcement agencies. And I also want to thank the courts. The judges worked with us. And this proved to be a very powerful team and has had a significant impact to the positive on reducing retail theft in our community. Chief Elliott, I don't know if there's anything else you would like to add in terms of what was reported to the Criminal Justice Council, but it's good news for us and we appreciate everyone's work.
Good evening, Commission. Thank you for this opportunity. So, Dr. Estrop, just like you said, this has been an effort by everyone in this community. Everybody's come together in a collaborative effort, and they've been able to significantly reduce the retail thefts. And when we're talking about the retail crime, we're not talking, we're talking organized operations and major organized operations where it is a significant amount of merchandise that's being taken at a time, over thousands of dollars with each theft. So we're not talking small incidents or somebody who genuinely is struggling to, feed their family. There are those situations that we are seeing, but this task force was focused around the major organized operation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions for Chief Elliott or for Tom Franson in terms of the airport?
I have none.
Likewise.
All right. Any other comments from commissioners? If not, we're open for comments from the audience. If you wish to speak, please fill out one of these cards, which are available on either podium. Turn it in to Jill Pierce, our clerk. She will forward those to me. I have 3 at this point. And please recall you have a 3-minute time limit in which to speak to the council, to the commission. First speaker is Vicki King Quick, who resides at 3154 Meadowwood Road in Springfield.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vicki, and I grew up in Springfield, Ohio. And thank you for all that you're doing for our community. And one thing I want to say is, if you can hear me now,
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
I want to know who's doing all this beautiful work downtown, making everything so beautiful. I just love what's happening in Springfield. I would like to know who to contact to talk to some people about some bigger than life posters, bigger than life for our youth and for anybody in need for peace and for hope, just for things that are for good for our community in the midst of all this other stuff that's happening, as you know. It's
Well, we happen to have a beautification committee. Can you,
Yeah, there's a beautification committee, and then there's also a downtown public art committee that I think would be the best route potentially.
so if you would see Brian or.
Yeah, I'll have Karen Graves from my staff come see you after the
Raise
meeting,
your hand if you would, please.
and she can get you connected with that. She sits on that committee.
I've
She's
lost 2 pair
over there in
of
the back of the
prescription
room.
glasses, so. Okay.
Here she comes.
Okay, and then, thank you for that. But one thing that's really important that God was nudging me to come down here and speak up because, as my family knows, I'm not finished with the terms and services to the internet. And I've been reading it and I'm still not done. And I just have one question for everybody here. That question would be, has anybody in this room actually read the internet terms of service of use? Has anyone for Facebook, for YouTube, for Meta, for the internet period? When you go and click, has anybody read it? Show of hands. Oh, I don't blame you. You don't want to know. You really don't want to know. But I think it's time we can make a change for the better and make the internet a safer place for all of us, for our children. Right now, over in Columbus, they're having some lawsuits ongoing about the parental consent for children to use social media. Whereas when you use, from what I've read, when you use these platforms, they're all open by default, which opens everything. And if you're not tech savvy and know how to protect your children or even yourself, it makes you very vulnerable. So I'm missing out on a lot of great stuff from people that I know and want to be a voice and with my family, and I'm missing out on a lot. And I want to be part of it, but I want to have the same protections that Bill Gates has, Mark Zuckerberg has. I would just like to have those same protections.
Would you please bring your comments to close?
Yes, that'd be all. But, it's Facebook, okay? I didn't want to be there.
Okay, thank you. The next card I have is Diana Daniels, 40 Hedgley Road, Springfield, Ohio.
Good evening, everyone. I think what has been missed over the last 6 or 7 months is, and was missed on the 29th with the first meeting we had after the bus accident, was something I said that went over everybody's head. And in that, I'm going to refer to what your position is now and what happened prior. You folks sitting up here are the recipients of a decision that was made by your predecessors and other members of the community. You are reaping the seeds that were sown in 2014. The consequences are what you are now experiencing. In 2014, now I'm going to just back up, I may get to everything, I don't know. Because what got me started on this was realizing that we had an influx that was not organic. Organic immigration is a trickle, a flow that is manageable. What happened to us after the disaster at Del Rio, look it up, was a flood, a tsunami of immigrants. That's not organic. That was planned. There was a mechanism already in place beginning in 2014. You have 3 members of your but government employees that have told me exactly why this is happening. A, we needed more people in Springfield due to a decrease in population, and we needed more workers. I had one resident tell me that we needed more workers or we wouldn't have food to eat. You take what you can from that. I was appalled that that was coming from the mouth of a city resident. Okay? So I have with me a couple articles that I'm going to ask you folks to go over, and then I'll come back and review them. And one of them is where I got most of my information that I am not going to share tonight because I don't have time. This is an article. Now, we understand that I do enough of deep dive into the internet and do my homework. This is an article in the Dayton Daily News from February 8th, 2014. I suggest you look it up and go through it. It will tell you exactly how it happened, who was involved, and even some of the city players that were involved in the debacle that we are experiencing now. I also have another article here, which is pretty hard to find. It's called, and it's on a website called Global Network. You can't find it anymore because it's been scrubbed. It's called Welcome Springfield. No longer exists.
Your comments to a close.
Gotcha. I will be following up with some comments from that article, but understand, you folks are not, you're just reaping the rewards. You're going to be the fall guy. And I'm sorry for that, but you're doing a good job for the most part. We'll talk more about that later. Thank you.
Thank you. The next card I have is Gary Armstrong, 109 East Ward Street, Springfield.
I expect to see faces when my name's called now, but because I was drawn in here by an illegal commissioner who didn't follow the rules, I'll be here until something's done, and nobody's reached out from the day I came in here a year ago, December 6th. So it's been a year and a couple months. The 4 unit still stands, totally illegal, but he's got an MO. There's 11, 12 houses he has, probably, and he's increased all of the apartments of each one of them. They went from 2 mailboxes to 3 and 4. He's got a pattern. That's the way that's the way people who don't follow the law operate. They have a pattern. It's easy to follow. That's why most cops can solve the crime. The law department said, "Oh, we can't force ourselves in there." Oh, he's advertising apartments A, B, C, and D. I mentioned to somebody down here he's got 4 mailboxes, and now he took down 3. And my problem's still there. Nobody's going to do anything. I didn't break the law. I'm here because of him, and I'll be here because of him for 2 years if it takes until I'm no more. Nobody's done anything. Nobody's come up to me and said, "Oh, Mr. Armstrong," because I have integrity. When I represented 1,200 people at International, if somebody violated our oath that we took, and somebody insinuated another committeeman violated that, I would have been in his face going, "If you did what that citizen or that member said in that case, you need to resign or be recalled." And nobody's on my side. You can stand there, 4 units, 12 cars every day I look out outside my house, and nobody in this city's standing behind Gary Armstrong. You know what? I'm fairly honest. I'm no angel, but I'm pretty damn honest. And I know what integrity and honesty and oath. When I take an oath, when I take a job, when I build something for somebody, I build it to the best of my ability as if I was living there. There's crooks out there. I've known them. I've been in this town. I watched this city commission for 50 years, making some of the goofiest decisions I've ever seen that made no sense. It was nonsense, illogical. And just get off the track. I talked to the guy out front who worked for the city water department, and you're negotiating. If you're going to give those guys these kind of low wages and not negotiate and give them better wages, you're going to lose them, and then you're going to have idiots that can't even dig a hole, much less tighten down a water meter or do whatever. They're as essential for water and sewer as our fire and our police are. And if you don't recognize that, you shouldn't be a commissioner, because we need all infrastructure to live as a community. I've dug the holes. I've put sewers in the street when I had a contractor's license. And when you guys ask questions about nominating somebody to fill a space, you should have said, do you recognize the value of residential and commercial properties? That hotel wasn't worth anything. That appraisal, if they took it on the square footage of the building and the lot, yeah, they could got 2 or 3 or 4 million if they compared it to Columbus. Springfield, Ohio is a dying little town that needs all the help.
Would you
I'll give it
please
help for
close your
free.
comment?
I need your help. I'm done.
Thank you. Next up, I have a card for Stephen. And Stephen, I need some help with your last name. Is it
Sims.
Sims? I'm sorry, Stephen. Stephen resides at 1339 Seminole Avenue here in Springfield. Stephen?
Yes, I've got a question. I just came from one of my township meeting, and there's a addition being built out on Melody Acres, I believe it is. Talked to some of our residents. Kind of curious as to how this is set up. That being city property, why isn't the township we're going to get a bunch of kids brought into our school district out there, but it doesn't appear, from what I've heard, that the township's getting any money from this.
Well, actually, I can address that specifically. Over 30 years, the school system will receive $68 million in tax money and real estate tax money. In addition, if my memory serves me correctly, and I have the specific numbers if you need them, but I think I'm pretty close, they will get an additional, because of the increase in the number of students, an additional $26 million in state aid, because schools are funded primarily through real estate taxes and money from the state through state aid. So I think if I remember correctly, the total package that was offered to Shawnee, and they turned it down, amounted to around $86 million over 30 years.
Okay, well, like I said, I just
Yeah, I wanted to
tonight.
clarify it. And by the way, the superintendent of that school system in this very chamber said those numbers were accurate.
Okay, well, I guess one of my biggest questions is, if that's city property, shouldn't they go to city schools?
No,
Do they pay
the
city
state
taxes?
of
If there's
the state of
tax payments
Ohio,
and stuff?
yeah, the state of Ohio, and most states, frankly, the school district boundaries were set years and years ago, and they don't change by and large. Unlike city boundaries, which can expand. I think it's important for you to understand that in the case of that property or anyone else, we don't go out seeking that property. The owner of the property comes to the city and says, I would like to be part of the city so we can get city services for our property. Water, sewer, fire, police. But that's a decision each individual property owner makes. Do I want to be attached to the city or don't I? So it's up to the individual property owner in terms of, do they want to annex to the city or don't they? In the case of Melody Acres, the owner of that property said, I want to be part of the city because I want city services. The state law for schools is very different. The school boundaries can't change unless the two school systems agree, and they don't often agree on giving up property.
So over the period of 30 years, basically the township, Shawnee district gets what'd you say, 80 million?
The school system, I don't know about the township because I don't have expertise in that area.
Yeah.
But the school system, and it's either 68 or 86, I can't remember off the top of my head, $1 million over 30 years.
So now when you're speaking school system, are you talking about Clark Shawnee or are you talking about the state school system?
No, I'm talking exclusively about Clark Shawnee getting $86 million.
Okay, thank you.
Those are all the cards I have. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.